Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Samantha Goon. I'm the Democratic Services Officer. I will be hosting this meeting. I need to tell you that this meeting is going to be recorded. I'll go through a couple of procedures with you at the outset, and then I'll pass you over to the Chair and our Legal Officer, Lindsay Thomas. So this meeting is being held via MS Teams. Should there be any technical issues and you lose the ability to communicate with us, we'd ask that you log out and log back in. Obviously, if you can bear with us, because this is a new way of working for us, so we're doing our best to sort of streamline the process. So I'll pass you to our Chair, who is Councillor Penny Matthews, to say some introductory words, and then if you pass over to Lindsay Thomas, Legal Officer.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Councillor Penny Matthews. I'll be chairing the meeting this morning. I'm going to pass you over to Mrs. Thomas now, who's our legal representative, who will take us through the procedure. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Statutory Licensing Committee, which is being held under the Licensing Act 2003 hearing regulations and as permitted by the local authorities Coronavirus Meeting Wales Regulations 2020. You will have had the procedure to be followed, and reference has been made to the Institute of Licensing Protocol for Licence Applications, and I think that Annex 1 that you've all been provided with does give some support and assistance. As already been said, I won't use the word that everyone's using, but these are difficult times and we're all finding ourselves dealing with these applications in very different circumstances. If you could have regard to the annex when participating, everyone will have an opportunity to speak and ask questions in due course. If you have your hand facility, perhaps you could use that if you wish to speak, and if you could keep your microphones muted as far as possible, please. In accordance with Regulation 22 of the hearing regs, the procedure will be as follows. We're using relying on the April 2018 statutory guidance and the authorities policy as reviewed in July 2018. Links to both have been provided in the report for you. If you do have any issues with bandwidth, I suggest that, or I've been advised that you turn the video off, which may help, and then put it back on again. Please make sure you have other reports and attachments to hand, and where possible, because they're going to be unlikely to be in paper, or if they're not in paper, take them to the page so everyone knows where everyone is. There's no permission sought regarding Regulation 8 and 22 regarding someone else to attend and be heard. So the summary of the procedure: officers will read the report and the councillors will ask questions. The responsible authority, South Wales Police, will read out their relevant representation and the councillors will ask questions. Mr. Parry, for the applicant, you will then make your application and the councillors will then ask you questions. Then there will be an open discussion where anyone can ask other parties questions through the chair by using the hand signal. After that open discussion, South Wales Police will have the final opportunity to make submissions, and then Mr. Parry, you will have the final word in the usual way. Now, at that point, I am anticipating members will close the committee and the decision will not be given immediately afterwards, as is the usual course, and that myself and the members will go into private session and we will put together the decision, and then that has to be sent out to you within 5 working days. So any questions over that? Everyone clear who will be in? It may be that because it says it's quite intensive doing an application like this in this way, there may be requests to break out and there may be requests to have breaks. Again, if you use the hand signal, then that can be facilitated as necessary. Obviously, we've had some paperwork that may need to be looked at. So I think everyone just has to bear with everyone. Everyone will have a fair opportunity to speak. And I'll hand you back to Samuel now.
Sam, you're on mute.
We'll go through these holidays, okay?
Okay.
I beg your pardon, everybody. Thank you, Mrs. Thomas. I'm now going to pass you over to the Chair, Councillor Penny Matthews, and we will now go through the formal part of the committee agenda.
Thank you. Are there any apologies for absence?
No, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any disclosures of personal or prejudicial interest?
Not from myself. Any other officers or members have any interests? No? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So
now we're on to the licensing item 3. So if you pass over to the licensing officers too.
Okay. So we go over to our licensing officer, Mrs. Walker. If you'd like to take it from that, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. We're here to hear the application, a new premises licence application for Bamboo Beach Bar, 51 to 52 Wine Street, Swansea. The applicants, Bamboo Ops Limited, made an application for a new premises licence received by the authority on the 6th of July. The licensable activities and the hours applied for are at 3.1 of your reports, and the full copy of the application is attached to Appendix A of the report. The premises is situated in the Wine Street area, and a location plan of the premises is attached to Appendix B of your report. As a background to the premises currently has the benefit of a premises licence that trades to the hours listed in the report. The new application is for a change of layout in the premises, as the current operation found that the venue had a number of pinch points and that the terrace area of the premises on the first and second floor were more popular than the ground. During the application period, the consultation period, an amendment to the plan for the first floor was submitted, and that amended plan is attached to Appendix A. 4.2 of your report, the Council has adopted a special policy on cumulative impact for the premises situated within the Wine Street area. And at point 4.4, the application received has been considered against the exceptions outlined in 6.22 of the special policy. However, this application falls outside of those exemptions. At point 5 of your report, you have the promotion of the licence and objections, and if you were minded to grant the premises licence today, the conditions consistent with the operating schedule that would be attached to the licence are attached at Appendix C of the report. At point 6 of our report, we have the relevant representations. Representations were received by South Wales Police on the basis that there is a special policy in place for the location of the premises. The police representations make reference to the proposed increase in customer capacity at the venue and the probable increase of the cumulative impact on the area of Wine Street. They have stated, though, in the representation, should the venue's existing capacity remain unchanged, the police would not object to the application subject to the necessary conditions included in the representation. The representation is attached to your report, Appendix D. At point 7 of your report, you have the policy consideration, and at point 8, you have the guidance issued by the Home Secretary. At point 9, we have the determination of the application, and the decision must be based on the individual merits of the application, the representations received, with a view of promoting the licence and objectives. As this application for a premises licence is located within the special policy area of Wine Street and the relevant representations has been received, paragraph 6.24 of the special policy applies, which is in your report. In reaching the decision of the committee, they must have regard to the representations and take the steps mentioned in point 9.3 of the report, and the licensing subcommittee's instructions are requested. Thank you.
You're on mute again, Penny.
Okay. So, can I just ask you, with regard to the application, it was sent out to all these to the Mid and West Wales Fire Authority. Have they come back with no representations, or have they just not answered?
I can confirm the application was served on all the responsible authorities, and we haven't had any further comments than the representations in the report.
So they just haven't replied then. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to be clear on that. Thank you.
Sorry, Chair. Just to be clear, we did have no representations from the Pollution Control Department.
Okay. You did have a representation. No, you didn't. Right?
No, they made no representations.
Okay, so they're the only ones that have replied apart from the police?
Yes,
Yeah.
you're correct.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Downing, did you want to say something? Sorry.
Yeah, just to follow what the chair just said now. When you sent representation out to the fire authority, did they acknowledge receipt?
We've had nothing back from the fire authority
Nothing. So
acknowledging.
you don't know whether they received it or not then?
We're not, well, we send an email out confirming we've received the application, and that is sent to all parties, and they made no comments. So had they not received, they could have made comment at that point when we notify them that the application has been submitted.
Yeah, just to confirm that you don't get anything to say that they've received the email either.
No, unfortunately not.
Okay, thank you. So what are we going to do? Mr. Parry speaking, but he's muted.
Mr. Parry, you're muted at the moment. Could you unmute yourself? So sorry. No, we still can't hear you. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, no, you're back muted again. I'm so sorry.
There we go. Yeah, I think I'm unmuted now. I do apologise. Madam Chair, I was just trying to assist with the point raised by your colleague on the committee. The fire authority have been in discussion with my client in relation to this application, so I know that the fire authority received notice of the application. And I think that I'm also right in saying that when your office sends out these applications by email, they use the function which tells them that they've been received by the recipient. So we know they got them, and we know that they chose not to make any representations. I hope that assists.
Yes, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Parry. We're over to you now, Mr. Parry.
I think it's the police first, Mum, is it not?
Yes,
Oh,
that's the police.
Beg your pardon, it's the police.
Sorry, Mr. Hancock.
Well, Madam Chair, before I go any further, do you require me to mute this now? Or I do, yes. So sorry, forgive me.
Yes, please.
Forgive me.
Thank you. Thank you. Over to Mr. Hancock.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Morning, everybody. I'm in receipt of the application for the new premises licence relating to Bamboo 51 to 52 Wine Street, Swansea. Application has been made by Bamboo Ops Limited. Having considered the application on behalf of South Wales Police, I can confirm that Chief Constable wishes to make significant representations as to why the application should not be granted in its proposed form. Detailed representations supported by evidence are made on the grounds that the granting of the licence in its current form will undermine the promotion of the key licensing objectives, namely the prevention of crime disorder, public safety and the prevention of public nuisance. The property is situated on Wine Street, Swansea, in the centre of the evening and nighttime economy. The building consists of 3 floors, a ground floor with large bar area, first floor with 2 proposed bars and karaoke room, and a 3rd floor outdoor mezzanine area. Paragraph 6.19 of the Swansea Council Statement of Policy refers to the cumulative impact saturation policy for 3 specific areas: Wine Street and surrounding area, Kingsway and the surrounding area, and High Street and College Street. This property falls within the Wine Street zone, which formerly is the Swansea City Cumulative Impact Zone, as outlined in the map we've provided. Under paragraph 6.2, the special policies for cumulative impact were introduced because the authority was satisfied that it was appropriate and necessary to adopt of the aforementioned policy due to the number of premises licensed to supply alcohol for consumption on and off the premises in these streets, along with the incidence of crime, disorder and public nuisance attributable to customers of such premises. Paragraph 6.22 states the effect of the special policy is that in respect of premises located in this area, there is a presumption against granting any application for a premises licence, club premises certificate or a variation that is likely to add to the existing cumulative impact unless the applicant can clearly demonstrate otherwise. This presumption is only relevant to applications which trigger a relevant representation from a responsible authority or other person referring to one, or more for the licensing objectives which gave rise to the special policy being introduced. Please acknowledge that this premises is already open and trading, utilising its existing premises licence, and should this application be successful, then the existing licence will be surrendered. This application does not seek to increase any of the current operating hours as outlined, with the supply of alcohol till 0300 hours when the opening hours to 0330 hours 7 days a week. This application does not outline whether there is an intention to increase the capacity of the premises under this new premises application. However, since submitting the police representations, it's become clear that the intention is to increase the capacity of the venue by 150 people from 650 to 770 persons, an increase of 23%. It raises the question as to why this increase was not identified in the premises application, which could well be an oversight or alternatively an attempt to disguise the significant capacity increase. If this increase had been identified, it is highly likely that further representations would have been received from other parties. Due to such an increase in capacity, then South Wales Police as a responsible authority hereby submits representations that to grant this application would cause the authority to depart from the special policy and have a negative impact on crime, disorder, public safety and public nuisance in this area. I draw your attention to guidance issued by the Secretary of State under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003. Paragraph 1.4 of the guidance stated that the promotion of the statutory objectives is a paramount consideration at all times. Section 19 of the Crime Disorder Act 1988 requires both police and local authorities in the exercising of their function to have due regard to the likely effect upon crime disorder in its area and to do all they can to reasonably prevent crime and disorder. In addition, the Act created a statutory partnership between local authorities and police and other key partners to work together in reducing crime and disorder in all aspects of their work. The South Wales Police data shows a level of all types of crime and violent crime between 11 PM to 6 AM between 2016 and 2019 on Wine Street and surrounding streets. Figures for 2020 have not been included due to the coronavirus pandemic and the lockdown procedures that have been in place since the 23rd of March 2020, including limitations on travel and the closure of licensed premises. In relation to the data provided by South Wales Police, I draw your attention to the all crime occurrences. From 2016, there was a total of 776 for that year, reducing down to 644, 684 and 564. This reduction can be attributed to the cumulative impact being a success in limiting the amount of licensed premises and the saturation levels within that area. I would draw your attention to the highlighted red blocks, which highlight the peak times related to Wednesdays, Fridays and Saturdays, and the Sundays I believe would account for bank holiday Sundays. In relation to violent crime, I would again draw your attention to 2016, total of 312, reducing to then 230 to 284 and then back up to 246 in 2019. Again, a lot of work is conducted by South Wales Police and its partner agencies in reducing violent crime, and this policy does assist and have a true impact on reducing violent crimes and all levels of crime. Again, I draw your attention to the red blocks highlighting peak times in relation to incidents. The police data highlights that despite the substantial police commitment to the evening and nighttime economy, figures show that all levels of crime, including violent crime, are significant, and the red highlighted areas show the peak time between midnight and 4 AM, and the busiest days being Wednesdays, Fridays and Saturdays. Any increase in the cumulative impact will have the potential to increase these figures still further. Having carefully considered the application, South Wales Police believe that when considering crime and disorder statistics, there is a requirement to submit an objection to this application in its current form. South Wales Police acknowledge there are issues surrounding preloader and a later walk-up of persons into the nighttime economy. To allow this late night licensed venue in the centre of the city, again till 3 AM, will assist in reinforcing this later drinking culture. There is currently overwhelming capacity within the evening and nighttime economy to encourage people to enjoy themselves earlier. And this has been reflected in South Wales Police approach in conjunction with partner agencies to encourage new and diverse premises focus on family entertainment, culture and community projects and food-led operations as part of the successful Purple Flag initiative. South Wales Police also submit that the cumulative impact policy and the restriction of late night venues has assisted in reducing levels of crime as outlined. In order to actually police the evening and nighttime economy, South Wales Police utilised a specific policing operation on Wine Street, Little Wine Street and surrounding streets called Swansea After Dark, which is implemented every Wednesday, Friday, Saturday and identified busy event days. The operation consists of officers who are abstracted from sectors across both Swansea and Neath Talbot between 1800 hours and 0600 hours, along with additional officers from across the division which are taken away from their communities and their primary roles. This has a substantial impact on the policing of communities in Swansea and Neath Talbot, and in financial terms costs in excess of £500,000 a year to resource. Swansea has been recently successful in achieving the Purple Flag renewal, which promotes a vibrant, diverse and safe and evening and nighttime economy. This was achieved through excellent work with partner agencies in conjunction with licensed premises. Swansea Health Point was identified as a fundamental element of the evening and nighttime economy, was created to help reduce nighttime economy emissions to local accident and emergency department and treats approximately 1,000 patients a year. The Health Point is located within the Strand and consists of a qualified nurse, paramedics, St John Ambulance volunteers, street pastors, South Wales Police officers and student volunteers. The Health Point, which operates between 10 PM and 5 AM, is funded through the Police and Crime Commissioner, the Local Health Board and Wales Ambulance Service, is in place to offer a safe and substantial medical facility to treat people visited in the evening and nighttime economy. The Health Point costs approximately £1,000 a night to operate and opens on a Wednesday, Saturday and identified event. The number of late night venues encourage later drinking and increased intoxication. And this provides additional pressures on the Health Point, thus having further costs and resource implications for all agencies confirmed. The applicant has submitted an extensive operating schedule. However, there are areas of concern that need some adjustment or refocusing in order to put in place conditions suitable for the premises should the committee be of the opinion to grant this application. The application refers to the premises simply as a bar. There is no details regarding the type of operation that may be considered. It is therefore difficult to effectively consider how the licence and objectives can be promoted. An operating the applicant has submitted a door staff condition which is wholly inadequate based on the location of the premises and the operating hours submitted. Section 2.2 of the 1982 guidance referred to the use of door staff to be appropriate to ensure that people who are drunk dealers or people carrying firearms or more relevant to Swansea knives or weapons do not enter the premises. Door staff are also required to ensure the safe capacity of the venue. This application seeks operating hours daily of 0330 hours on Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays, along with additional hours before bank holiday, the Christmas period and New Year's Eve. This premise is located within the busiest area of the evening and nighttime economy, and more specifically within the busiest area of Wine Street. If this application is granted in its current form, the premises will be one of the latest venues within the city, and the condition of door staff is going to be fundamental to how that premises operates. Bear with me a second, got a few problems here. I have submitted in the submission a couple of conditions which I feel need refocusing to assist the application if required. As outlined, South Wales Police submit the representations that based on the capacity increase, then this will further increase cumulative impact. And I submit the committee consider the representations provided. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions, please, for the officer? Yeah, police officer. Sorry. Councillor Downing, do you have any questions, please? No? Councillor Rowlands, any questions of the police officer? No? Thank you. Okay, so it's over to Mr. Parry.
Yes.
So we go to Mr. Parry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I know that papers have been circulated in advance of today's hearing, and can I just be sure that everyone has seen my letter of the 25th of August 2020? It's quite a long letter.
Yeah.
That was sent in response to an invitation from your licensing officer by email dated the 21st of August. And if I know that everyone's had this rather long letter, then that will very much foreshorten my presentation to you today.
Okay.
So could I know if everyone's had it and has read it?
We've had it, Mr. Parry, but we didn't get it until very late this morning.
I see, only this morning.
Yes.
I wonder in the circumstances, and I look to Mrs. Lindsay Thomas for her ever helpful guidance, whether it would indeed be helpful for me to allow members of the committee just a few minutes to read that letter. And I make that invitation on this basis. Your licensing officer, Mrs. Bethan Walker, very properly asked me to address 3 points that she raised in her email. And of course, the guidance in relation to these remote meetings invites me as an applicant to make written submissions, which is exactly what this letter of the 25th of August was intended to achieve. So I wondered, could I invite you to take a few minutes to read this? And I think it's certainly going to help me, and I hope it'll help you as well.
Okay, that sounds very reasonable. Should we take a 10-minute break then?
Most
Is that convenient? Yeah. We'll take a 10-minute break and we'll come back at 25 to 11.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Sit down. He's got for secretary, hasn't he? Are we on mute? He's not president. No, I am. Are we on mute? We're off. Almost 20 pages. Is everybody back?
Yeah,
I think Bridget might be reading, is she?
yeah, the applicant's not there, Mr. Brown, if you want.
Perhaps she's not coming back. Mr. Brown.
I don't know if I heard. I think I can. My client is in the loop at the moment.
All right, okay.
Not longer.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I can't see anyone in here. They're going to take these. Okay, thank you, Mr. Parry. That was really helpful.
I'm glad. Well, I am glad. If I can say with respect, I felt that your licensing officer's invitation that I answer some questions in writing before the hearing today was wise and was appropriate, and I hope that you'll have seen that to a large extent in that letter I make my application. But it's probably right that, given that my client's sitting next to me, that I at least go through the motions of trying to earn my fee. So I will take you through that letter briefly. I won't read it word for word, but I'll take you through the letter and present my application in that way, if I may. So the first thing that you will know in relation to this application is, yes, it's an application for a new licence, but of course it's an application in respect to premises that are already licensed. And what we know about the generality of that application is that, aside from the police, and I'll come back to the position of the police shortly, aside from the police, none of the responsible authorities, my computer just made a strange noise. Can I still be heard?
Yes. Yeah.
Aside from the police, none of the responsible authorities have any objection to this application. And we also know from what is said to you by the police in their representation that if this was a like-for-like application, those are the words used, then there'd be no objection from the police to this application. So what we know therefore, and this will have an impact on the way that I present the application to you, what we know therefore is that this is not a police case in which they say, oh, hang on, crime and disorder, there's a big crime and disorder problem with these premises, can't license these premises. It's not that kind of case. And and that will colour the way that I present the application to you, because it's said quite fairly, if I can say so with respect, by the police, if this was like for like, they could have their licence. We wouldn't be making these representations. So returning to what we're doing, the motivation for what we're doing is to improve the comfort, safety and quality of our premises. You've heard from the agenda document that we've been there a while now, and what has been found is that there are pinch points in the existing layout. What we found is that there are people queuing in the existing layout. Welcome back. There are people queuing in the existing layout in order to get to the first floor. And very importantly, what we got on the first floor of the existing layout is the main toilet provision. Aside from a disabled toilet, that's all there is on the ground floor. So we've got people queuing to go to the first and second floors because they like being there. And we've also got people who are trying to navigate that queue in order to get to the first floor where the toilet provision is. So people who are comfortable and happy to be on the ground floor, they're having to navigate and deal with that queuing issue. And there was even a suggestion made some time ago, I think it was at the review before Christmas, which your officers carry out. There was a suggestion that there may have been people using the bamboo premises at the ground floor who, rather than queue to go upstairs to the toilet, we're finding other ways to meet those needs, perhaps using toilets elsewhere. Not a really satisfactory state of affairs. So when we came to address that issue, the question was, how can we ameliorate that issue? How can we deal with it? So the first thing was to improve the toilet provision at ground floor, and you will have seen on the plans, I hope that you've all had access to the one-page existing layout plan. I circulated it with the email that covered my letter to you that you've kindly read this morning. And if I hold mine up, I think that you can just about see that on one page we've got the 3 existing floors set out there. Can I pause while you all indicate that you have that document? Mrs. Thomas has it. The technology of the nodding head. Excellent.
I thought you might appreciate me being quiet, Mr. Parry. But I can speak if you'd like me to.
I'm making no comment at all there, Mrs. Thomas.
All right, thank you. I'll stay mute then.
Good. So if we all have the existing drawing, which is on, I say again, so it shows all 3 floors on one print, and I think that we all also have a rather larger on A3 print of each of the floors. At least you should have them because they were filed, and a request was made that they be circulated to each of you. Do you all have those? Yep. Excellent. In which case, what you'll see, if you look at the ground floor, and perhaps I'll give you a guided tour, if I may, through the premises, you can see what we're doing. But I'm conscious of the fact that you've read my letter as well, and I do within the letter. So if I go too quickly, and anyone wants me to stop and focus on any particular part of the premises, then please let me know. So, starting from the right-hand side of the ground floor plan, I'll just point out what the changes are. First of all, you'll see that the clients propose to have an external area to the front of the premises, and we've seen the proliferation of these, encouraged by regulation, across the city centre. So my clients propose to have an outside area at the front, and pausing there, and I'll return to it before I finish. That will only be for people seated. So there'll be no standing at the front drinking. That's only for people who are seated at tables, which is a general and you may very well think sensible requirement for these pavement cafe areas. And then you come into the premises, And looking at the plan, the large plan to the ground floor, you'll see that when you come in through the main entrance, which is now centralised, you'll see on the right-hand side that there are, towards the top of the plan, that there are now to be fixed seating areas, quite a number of fixed seating areas. And all of this, of course, is within the backdrop of another set of regulations, which you'll be very much aware of, and that's the COVID-safe regulations, as I'll call them. So seated areas, these will be screened. Additional seating to the left-hand side when you come in. And then you'll see the main bar. The bar is in the same location. Additional seating then, or we're upgrading the seating and providing some additional seating again to the right-hand side as you walk past the bar. Come to the rear of the premises, you'll see the bar servery is shown, and you'll also see some additional seating at the bottom of the plan, which as you walk through the premises will be on your left-hand side. So at ground floor, one of the significant features that you'll immediately notice is a switch from, I know this is not a comfortable phrase for an applicant to use on Wine Street, but a switch from the vertical drinking establishment, a switch more to seating, safe seating, comfortable seating. Also significant for me to point out, if I may, towards the rear of the premises, the far left-hand side of the plan, we're upgrading the exit there. And I say it's an entrance and an exit, but in practice it'll be in use as an exit. That will help with the flow of people through the premises, the safe flow of people, in particular the safe flow of people leaving the premises, because another thing, of course, we have to be aware of in these COVID safe times is the flow of people because of the requirement for social distancing. So significant improvement there. Another point, if I can show you at that point of the plan, the staircase, now they don't look very different when you compare the staircase on the large ground floor plan to the staircase on the three drawing plan, the existing plan, but in fact they are being upgraded, those stairs, because at present that staircase is a fire safety staircase, and it's only a fire safety staircase. It's not in general use. It's not what they call an accommodation staircase. But because of these improvements, we're taking that staircase in as an accommodation staircase, and that ameliorates queuing issues for people going to the first floor, the circulation of people in and out of these premises, and adds to the seated capacity. And because of the toilet provision, which is, sorry, I walked straight past the toilets. I didn't point out my wonderful toilets to you. So if I come back to the centre of the premises, I'm reversing now back into the premises, forgive me, and you'll see that the disabled toilet is located pretty much where it is already on the plan, but that in addition to the disabled toilet, we also have the provision of male toilets and female toilets. The disabled toilet is unisex. So I would suggest that we can see from the ground floor a significant improvement in comfort, toilet comfort in particular, seated comfort, safety, exit, the improvement in the staircase to the ground floor. And I think that's probably all that I need to tell you in relation to the ground floor. And I'll take you now, if I may, to the first floor. And if you look at, again, and you should be looking at a plan which is marked in the legend towards the bottom, written across the bottom of the plan. It says scale 1 in 100 times A3, and the date of it the 8th of June 2020. And you may notice that it says revision LICA, because this is revision A, and this is the amended plan that your licensing officer who is no longer on the screen, on my screen at least, but I'm sure she's still there somewhere, that your licensing officer mentioned had been filed during the consultation process. So that's the plan that you should be looking at. The first point that I'd make in relation to this first floor plan, if I may, is this. Whilst the toilet provision at first floor, it's being upgraded, it's being improved generally, because if you're going to spend a lot of money on premises, as my clients are, they're spending about £200,000, you give it a facelift at the same time. Well, it's being given that facelift, but the toilet provision is broadly as it was. But of course, what you have to have in mind is that we won't have this pressure on that toilet provision from the ground floor that we had previously, because of the provision of the ground floor. By dint of providing ground floor toilets, there will be less of a need for people to migrate to first floor in order to find adequate and proper toilet provision. So we have the toilet area there. Bear with me a moment if you would. We also, you'll see that we've provided at first floor, when you compare it with the existing plan, extensive both fixed and loose seating, so that a significant increase in the seated capacity and seated comfort of the first floor of the premises. And I know it follows, but I think that I should make the point, because capacity is going to be a live issue in this case. The more seated capacity we have, well, then the less vertical drinking capacity we have, because obviously seats take up more space. You will also have in mind, I know, because of the COVID regulations, that when it comes to seating, then we need to maintain social distancing, so that if people are in a bubble, they're in the same household, well then I don't need to be more than 2 meters away from my wife. But people who are not in that same household, well then social distancing regulations apply. You'll see that at first floor we have an additional bar servery, so that there was before the one bar servery at first floor, we now have 2. So that's an improvement in the quality of service at first floor. You'll see that we've opened up the centre of the first floor. The reason for that is my clients found that the people who were coming to the first floor were mainly congregating on the area, which if you look on the 3 drawing plan, is marked as first floor decking area. If you can see those words written across it towards the rear. And what my clients found is that most of the people coming upstairs, that's where they were going to. So what we've done, and we have in mind the comfort and safety of our clientele, we also have in mind COVID. What we've done is we've opened up the centre of that area, provided additional space, the additional servery that I pointed out to you, and the additional comfort, fixed and loose seating, which is shown on this drawing. And in addition, I mentioned it already, we've got the improved access to the first floor by taking in this stairwell or improvements to this staircase. That's towards the rear left-hand side of the plan as you look at it, where we've taken that in as an accommodation staircase now because of the improvements, rather than just, as it was previously, just a fire escape staircase. Another matter that I should point out to you, because it'll make some sense when we come to the second floor, is if you can see the extensive seating, which is at the far left-hand side, towards the rear of the first floor of the premises. Now that is in fact an open area. It's open to the elements. And all of this business about us becoming, having open areas, well, that's great if you're in Spain. That's lovely if you've got an Italian climate. Well, we don't have that in Wine Street yet. The reason that we are able to have this comfort, safety as well, I would suggest, of the additional fixed and loose seating is because above it, we're constructing a mezzanine floor, which we'll see when we come to the second floor plan. So that will be sheltered by that mezzanine floor. In addition, when we talk about shelter, towards the centre of the plan, so in fact it's just left of centre of the plan, that's the first floor plan, you'll see that we have the servery which says SD in red on it, and in front of that we've got a lot of seating there in front of it. Again, that's open to the elements, and it's open to the Welsh elements, and therefore we need to protect against the Welsh elements. The way that we have that is we will have a retractable awning which will cover that area. If it's a lovely evening and it's warm, well then the awning will be open and it will be open to the stars. But if it's not, and it's in fact open to the rain, then we will have a retractable awning which will shelter the people who are using that area. So that at first floor we have the improvements in the centre of the premises to allow for social distancing, amongst other things. We have the relief of the pressure on the toilet provision by dint of the ground floor toilet provision. We have the improvements in comfort and hence safety. I think that's probably all that I need to tell you about the improvements that we make at first floor. Can I take you to the second floor, please? And the first thing that you'll see on the second floor plan, if you compare it with the 3 drawing plan, is that what we have now is this area which is on the far left-hand side of the drawing. We have the mezzanine floor and the seating at mezzanine floor. So it's a seated area of mezzanine floor. The red box, which has confused me every time I've looked at this plan, it's almost a red box, that's a void because that's an open area. So if I was standing looking down there, if the retractable awning had been retracted, then I would be looking down at those people who were at first floor. Does that make sense to everyone looking at this plan? Because it took me a while to work that one out. The other thing that's important for me to point out, when you're looking at this plan, same area, look at the fire escape, which is just above the void area that I've shown to you, the near fire escape. And if you compare that with the 3 drawing plan, there's no fire escape there. It's a brand new fire escape. And you know, it's this fire escape that's causing a lot of the discussion in this application. Because we have that fire escape, because we're improving the fire safety, well then that gives us a bigger fire safety number. It doesn't give us a bigger COVID safety number. It doesn't give us a bigger number on the license because we don't have numbers on licenses. But it gives us an increased fire safety factor combined with the other improvements that are being made. And what we say, and what I submit to you in relation to these improvements to these premises that are already licensed, is that what my clients have done, and I take considerable objection to what was said to you by the officer in his presentation, is that we've not tried to disguise anything. We've not tried to sneak anything past anybody. What my clients have set out to do is to improve the comfort, safety, and quality of their premises. Now that brings with it, because of course we have to comply with fire safety regulations, every operator does, that brings with it the fire officer saying to us, well, your fire safety number has increased by virtue of this. This is about comfort, safety, and quality of premises. It's not about wangling something with a fire officer. It's not why this application has been made. As far as the premises are concerned, I think that's all that I want to say about the physical changes to the premises. And by all means, if you have questions in relation to the physical layout, I have my client with me. He is more expert in relation to these physical changes than I. I've been briefed by him to tell you about them, so he's able to answer any questions in due course. I think with your permission, I'll move on with my presenting or making this application to you. And I'll do that, if I may, by reference to your Officer Bethan Walker's email to me, because that's the next thing that I raise. I take it that you've seen the email that was sent to me by Mrs. Bethan Walker, where she asked me to deal with certain matters in writing, and hence this letter. That's an email from her to me of the 21st of August 2020, where she, I think, very sensibly invited me to address a few points in writing in advance of this hearing. So she said to me, could you put together a document outlining the changes that have been made to the venue in relation to the premises layout? So that's the first part of that letter, and that's what so far in that letter, my letter of the 25th of August, that's so far what I've been trying to take you through. And then the next question she asks me, she says, condition 3, could you clarify what your intended meaning is? And that's, if I can help you for a moment, that's condition 3 in my operating schedule. And I'll take you to the page number in the application, if I may. It's on page 23 of the agenda document. I do apologise, is it page 23? Let me just double check. Yes, it is, page 23 of the agenda document. There are 2 numbers on there. In fact, there's a page 48 and a page 23, but it's the agenda document, page 23, if you all have that. And it's in my operating schedule at paragraph 3, where I've said, other than for off sales in sealed containers, no glassware or glass bottles to be taken outside the building. It's my clumsy English that's led to this inquiry. Outside the building by patrons of the premises. And I'm asked to clarify that. And in my letter to you, which you've kindly taken the time to read, I clarified it by saying that what we wanted that to read, and what, if I had my thinking cap on, what it should have read is that other than for sales in sealed containers, no glassware or glass bottles are to be taken outside the licensed area. The point is, and it's one of your standard conditions, the point is that we're not to be allowed to permit patrons just to leave the premises carrying glasses and bottles or anything like that. It's going to be controlled. I suppose technically that would be an off sale, but I think everyone would have kittens if we saw off sales being done in that way on Wine Street. The idea is that if there is an off sale, it's a genuine off sale, and they take it in a sealed container and off they go home with it. They're not to be wandering the streets drinking from open containers. That's the intention there, and I hope that I've clarified that point. The next point that was raised, or the next question that was raised by Mrs. Bethan Walker in her email to me, was that she said, please can you clarify if condition 13, that's on page 49 of the agenda document, members of the committee. If you have that, a thumbs up would be much appreciated. If you have that, and Mrs. Thomas has it, and that's a thumbs up as well. Thank you all indeed. So,
actually, Mr. Parry, I don't know if it'd be easier, but would it be easier to go to Appendix C, which is the conditions, because they're all listed together?
Do you mind very much, Mrs. Thomas, if I do it this way, because this is the way I've
No, absolutely. So it was just a suggestion.
It's a very helpful suggestion ordinarily, but you'll lose me. You'll lose me in the documents.
All right, no problem.
Thank you very much. So I was on page, what page was I on? I was on page 49 of the agenda document, and it's condition 13, and what Mrs. Mrs. Walker asked me to do is to clarify what's condition 13 all about. The condition 13 is merely making the point that whilst the premises, and this is the position as exists right now, and this is what we ask for in the application, the premises will, if you like, trade until 3 o'clock, but be open until 3:30. So we can make a sale of alcohol at 3 o'clock. So by dint of the premises being open until 3:30, people get a drinking up time, and they get time to use the toilets or any other provision within the premises before they leave, we would expect in an orderly fashion over that 30-minute period. That's all that paragraph 13 is seeking to achieve. So that deals with, I hope, questions that were raised by Mrs. Bethan Walker in her email of the 21st of August. And then what I've tried to do in this letter of the 25th of August is deal with the police representations, and I'm going to deal with them to some extent in reverse order. I'll deal with the technical ones, if I may, before I deal with this capacity issue and the special policy implications. So the first one that I'd like to deal with, if I may, is it speaks to condition 4 at page 24 of the agenda document. It's the police representation concerning door supervision at page 41 of the agenda document. And you'll remember that what the licensing police officer took you to was on page 41 was a request, or sorry, not a request, I do apologise, that's it's not a request, a proposed condition as set out. I won't read it word for word, but you'll see a minimum of 2 SIA licensed door supervisors on duty at all times from 9 o'clock when the premise is open for business, and then at other times and so on, and then it goes through the number of people present and the number of door supervisors. What I'm instructed to propose, as per my letter to for circulation the 25th of August, is that be imposed for Wednesdays, Fridays and Saturdays, and on Sundays preceding a bank holiday. But that the starting time be at 10 o'clock rather than at 9 o'clock. I had rather hoped, this is not meant to be a criticism, it's an observation, but I had rather hoped that I might have heard from the police licensing officer in response to this proposal, given that I circulated it by email and copied the licensing officer in on that letter by email sent on the 25th of August. I haven't heard from him, but and I'm sure that he'll respond in due course, but I can tell you that I'm instructed that this is exactly what's in force in Brewdog, for instance, and other premises that are operated by my clients. So that and that was the compromise, if I could put it that way, or the solution that was proposed and agreed at Brewdog. And you'll know Brewdog, the old Adelphi, way down the street. So that's my client's position, and I set out the reason for it. For instance, on a Sunday, not preceding a bank holiday, we tend to get about 50 people in. Well, we don't really need 2 licensed door supervisors to deal with 50 people. So that's the basis upon which that's proposed. Then the police representation, again, this is at page 42 of the agenda document. And you'll see that the police representation says this: the application contains a plan for an external area at the front of the premises. In order for this external area to be safe and managed correctly and to prevent public nuisance, the following conditions are requested: that there be no outside drinking at and it says at the premises, but I think the intention there, and the police licensing officer can clarify this in due course, I think his intention is at the area at the front of the premises. He's nodding his head, I'm grateful to you. so there is to be no use outside other than by customers seating within an area covered by a pavement cafe licence. That indeed is the intention. And then any external areas to be clearly identified and enclosed by use of a barrier method. Again, that is indeed the intention. Still on that page, if I can stay on that page for a moment, as it's convenient, it says, due to the number of residents in the locality, in an attempt to minimise noise disruption, even when all customers have left the premises, the following condition is requested, and you can see it for yourself. No glass, including bottles and so on. What we propose then, we're just refining it slightly, is that that be no waste glass and waste bottles. And the point here, and I think if I could say with respect, it's a very sensible suggestion that the officer makes, in my opinion, respectfully. What the concern is there, we've all seen it, we've all heard of it, the concern is that after 11 o'clock or whatever time onwards, that people are crashing empty bottles and cans and what have you into steel receptacles, and it causes public nuisance. And the idea of this condition is to eliminate that. So I say again that what my clients propose is a condition that there'll be no waste glass, including waste bottles, to be moved or removed or placed outside between these hours. That brings me then to that part of the representation which is concerned, that's the police representation, which is concerned with capacity. And the first thing that I ask you to have in mind in relation to capacity is that that's not what's driven this application. What's driven this application is a failing in the premises that we found in operation, a failing in relation to toilet provision, queuing, management, and circulation of people within the premises. That's what we found. So what's driven this application is to improve the safety, comfort, and the toilet provision. Now, through improving the safety, and at all times we have to comply with fire safety regulations. And the fire safety regulator, the fire authority, they say to us, oh, well done for doing this. As a result of this, this increases your fire safety capacity. Well, great. Thank you very much. That's not what's driven this application. And I'm bound to say that it seems to me, with respect, to be a strange way to go about dealing with licensing, where you have an operator who says, I want to improve my premises, I want to make them safer, I want to improve the comfort, I want to improve this problem with the toilets, and the response, if you take this to its logical conclusion, is you can't do that. You can't do that. We're in a special policy area. You can't do that. If you make it safer, well then fire safety would mean more people could come in. I don't know more people would come in. But because they could, because of this so-called increasing capacity, we can't do that. No, this application must be refused. That's a proper way for you to exercise your discretion. And in my respectful submission, that can't be right. I leave it to others, Mrs. Lindsay Thomas in particular, to tell you all the legal reasons why that can't be right. But that can't be right from the point of view of the sense of dealing with licensing cases. Your function in these cases is to promote the licensing objectives. Will we make it safer? We improve the quality and the comfort? And because fire regulations will tell us, oh, more people could get in there now, you refuse this application. That can't be right. The other observation that I've made in the letter, and I make this in the application, in fact, because you'll know, members of the committee, that when we make an application, if it's made within a special policy area, we have to tell you when we make the application what measures we will take in order to address cumulative impact, and how is it said that there will not be a negative effect on cumulative impact. We have to do that in the operating schedule, which is filed in the application. So to some extent, and I specifically do it in my letter to you, or my letter that's been circulated and read this morning, what we do is we say, and I'm repeating it therefore, is we say, well, why do we think that if we make this application there will be no negative impact? Well, leaving aside the positive impact that I hope I draw to your attention, the positive impact of improvements in safety, in fire safety, in comfort, in toilet provision. Leaving that aside, what we say is this: do you reasonably conclude that because bamboo has been made in, or proposes to make itself into a safer place, a more comfortable place, that more people are going to come to Wine Street? Do you reasonably conclude that? Do you actually think, given that the number of people coming to Wine Street in any event, the people who use my client's premises, the people who come to Wine Street in any case, do you actually think that someone might read in the paper, oh, have you heard, they've improved the fire escape in Bamboo, it's safer for us now, let's go to Wine Street. We used to drink in Astragat Lights, but now we'll drink in Wine Street because it's a safer place from a fire safety point of view. With respect, it's a nonsense. It would be an act of vanity on my client's part to say, well, if we make it bigger, more people will come. It doesn't work that way. And my clients make the point that what they expect, and they've been around the block a few times. My clients have been running premises on Wine Street now for, I think, about the thick end of 20 years. They've got peppermint, bamboo, brewdog. They know their market. What my clients say is, well, what will happen is the people who use Wine Street right now will be the same people using Wine Street. There won't be any additional people coming to the special area, the area of saturation. And if we are going to look at numbers in that way, in that very simplistic way, well, then we've got to take into account, well, what's going on within the cumulative impact area. Well, Walkabout is closed. I don't know the numbers, but I'm sure that Mrs. Walker can tell us what the numbers are. We think that that's about 1,000 people. That closed. That didn't close because of COVID. That just closed. I think that was in about January this year. Okay, one was in January, one was in November, because the other one I want to deal with is Revs, as my children used to call it, Revolution. That's closed as well. I think that was about 800 people. And what happened with Revs, and we all remember it, I'm sure the committee would have licensed it. Revs was very popular. And it changed its brand. I think it changed to Liberate. And then it shut down. One of them shut down in January. One of them shut down in November. One of them didn't even make it to Christmas and closed down. Well, if we're going to look at the numbers game, if that's what we're going to do, well, let's look at the fact that is 1,800 capacity gone. 1,800 less people, if you look at it that way. 1,800 less people are coming into that area. And the last thing for me to raise when making this application is the impact of other regulations. Now, we set out when we made this application, we set out when we decided to spend the thick end of £200,000 on improving the premises, on facing the future. We set out to improve the fire safety, comfort, quality and the quality of service of our premises. Now, fire regulations say, oh, that gives you a different number. Okay, another set of regulations right now tells us that we got a much smaller number. And these are the COVID regulations. Because what we're going to do under COVID, as I mentioned earlier on, is we've got to maintain social distancing. We've got to keep people safe. Well, and when I first was preparing this application, of course, we're all hoping and praying that COVID's going to go away. But we don't know that. And what you do, of course, is you're licensing and what we know about right now. And what we know right now is that we don't have a date when COVID's going to go away. We don't, but I wish we did. And then I get to attend a proper committee and deal with cases the way I used to. But we don't know if there'll be a vaccine. I pray that there will, but we don't know that. And if there's going to be one, we don't know when it's going to be. So in the meanwhile, notwithstanding that we've improved the comfort, safety, the quality of service, the toilet provision of our premises, we're not going to be anywhere near these capacity numbers that we've been talking about. Because in the same way as having done those things, the comfort, safety, fire safety, quality of service, the fire regulations impact in one way, well, the COVID regulations impact in an entirely different way. If we're going to play the numbers game. I think in terms of presenting my application to you, that's me about finished. So I shall mute myself now and listen to any questions they have.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Parry. Am I on mute? No. Okay. Councillor Downing, Councillor Rowland, any questions, please? Councillor Rowlands, would you like to go first?
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation. I have got a couple of queries, and some of them will be about the numbers that we've been discussing, and just listening to what you've had to say, and just my thinking, and maybe you could just clarify this for me. So the increased capacity, and as you've explained, is the fire capacity is up to 750, but I note and can see from the plans that there's a significant amount of fixed seating and removable seating. So what will the capacity be, on a working night then? That's I think that would be my first question.
May I try to answer that in this way? And I hope it won't be thought that I'm trying to be evasive, but it's a very difficult one to answer. What we've been told by because the only people who tell us numbers are the fire authority. So the fire authority told us this, and the way that this comes in, Ma'am, through the chair, the way this comes in is when you make when you apply for permissions to do works like this, quite aside from licensing. Has everyone frozen, or is that just me? Well, when you make these applications, you have to comply with building regulations and building control. Yeah. And as part of that, there's a lot of consultation with the fire authority. And the fire authority want to know about the flow of people in and out the premises, congregation of people on different floors. And they tell us what their maximums would be from a fire safety perspective. So we have to work within those maximums, but we might be working well short of those maximums because of the comfort of people within the premises. So we don't really, all I can tell you, and it's a bit artificial, is all I can tell you is the maximum numbers. And I can tell you the maximum numbers per floor, but your question, and if I can say so with respect, I think it's a very good question. Your question is, yeah, but how many will you actually get in there?
Yeah.
We don't know until it happens, because you see, here's one of the things with the number of people in there. Let's say that me and 9 other randoms, by which I mean we're all on our own, 9 other randoms go into the premise. That's 10 of us go in, and we're not meeting friends, there's 10 of us in there. Well, there's a social distancing requirement now for the 10 of us. Okay, now, whereas, if me and I don't have 9 other members of my family, but let's assume I did for a minute, if me and 9 members of my family went in there, there's a different requirement now. We can be in closer proximity, we could perhaps sit together if we booked a table. So we're not going to know until we actually do it. So I understand the question, and I think, I say again with respect, I think it's a good question, but we don't actually know until we see. The other thing, of course, we don't know is this. We don't know how many, if any additional people will want to come to the premises, even if we could accommodate them. We don't know that yet. So it's a very tricky one. It's a very tricky one. Of course, and I understand, and what's said by the police is, yeah, but if you've got a notional increase in capacity, that's the end of it. Special policy, refuse your application. And in my submission, that can't be right.
Okay, right. Okay, thank you for that. But so the fixed seating and the removable seating, what will be happening with that? Will that be, when will it be removed, and when will the fixed seat, when will it be staying?
The plan is still in place, as I understand. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes. But Mark, can I ask the question? First of all, the fixed seating, and the fixed seating is fixed, so that's it. The plan right now is that all of the seating that you have there is what's going to be in place, but it's not nailed. Some of these seats, this seating is, so to speak, nailed to the ground.
Yeah.
Not all of these seats are nailed to the ground, and there's a very good reason for that as well, of course. Because if I can show you, I can demonstrate the plan. If you look at the second floor,
yep,
you'll see that we've got the seats just in front of the void.
Yep.
We've got seats, and we've also got first of all, there's a fixed bench which runs the whole length, and then we have tables. And at the moment, we've got it set out as individual seats so that we've got social distancing between everyone there. Well, of course, if it was party 6, for instance, and they're in a bubble, I think we know what that means at the moment. If they're in a bubble, well, then they might be together. So we don't want to nail those to the ground or screw those to the ground when they'd actually want to be together. But in terms of the numbers and so forth, and where the show, the reason we shut down the plan is that's where there's going to be seating. It's not, if the question, Mum, was this, and I understand this question, there's a bit of feedback from somewhere.
Yeah.
Fine, I turn my mic off. It's not me who's feeding back. Stop now. So if the question is it intended, for instance, if this was behind the question, is it intended to have this seating and then tear it all away so we can fit more people in the night? No, that's not the plan.
Okay.
The plan is that this is the way the premises will be laid out, and these tables and chairs will remain there throughout the trading time of the premises. It's not like they used to call these bars where they would be a restaurant in the day and a vertical drinking establishment. These are called chameleon bars. I think I'm right, Mr. Thomas. This is not a chameleon bar. That's not the plan here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I've got one more, and maybe I've just missed this in the documents, and if you could just clarify that. We've got closing time of 3:30 drinks, last drinks at 3 a.m, drinking up time of half an hour. What currently happens at the moment?
It's the same regime, Mo.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Downing, I think you've got some feedback there, Phil.
What about now?
I can hear something coming through.
What can I hear?
You can hear somebody talking in the background.
Oh, it's my television. Is that okay?
That's better, thank you.
There we are. I thought you may wanted to watch Good Morning or whatever's on now, listen to it. Anyway, I'll start where where Bridget was about numbers. So, for example, if we go to the second floor, we got the seating. You've explained about the seating. I've roughly counted how many, the maximum you could get up there seated is around 100 people. Yet the license you're asking for is 200. So can you explain how we go from 100 seating to 200 people upstairs, up on the second floor?
Yes, if I can answer that in this way, and we're not asking for permission for 200. That's not what we're doing. That's not the way, if you grant this application, and in fact, on the application you granted before, it's not the way it works. You don't put a number on it, you see. What's happened here is that where that number's come from is the fire officer has said to us, it's part and parcel of building regulation control and so on, the fire officer has said, you could get 200 people to escape safely from that floor. We might not have 200 people up there. We might have 100 people all sitting down. We might have 50 people all sitting down. I'm not sure if that answers the question, sir. And as I'm saying it, it feels as though I'm being disingenuous in my answer. I promise you I'm not intending to be.
Yeah, because don't forget, I'm a bit of a layman as well. If it says 200, you could put 200 people up there and they'd be squashed because of the tables. Because the fire authority says you can.
Well, two things. First of all, we don't think they would be squashed if there was that number there. Well, we don't think so. And secondly, we don't know that there'll be 200 people there. What we know is
it's not going to be 200 people there.
Well, no, we don't know that. That's true. But where the number comes from, sir, is from the fire authority saying that's the number who could safely evacuate from that floor.
I can explain if it helps.
My client thinks that he can give you an explanation that might help as well. May I ask my client?
Yes, okay. Well, the chair should say that.
So when we put together a floor plan and an application like this, we have to consult with the fire service and building control. My architect has to put together, the floor space available and the seating plan. Now, I employed a third party to produce a fire strategy for this project, as I was requested to do so by the fire authority. And what they do is that we submitted the plans, including all the seating and all the removable seating. And what my architect then has done is he has worked out the floor space available then for people who would be standing. So during the normal times when COVID either disappears or didn't exist, there would be sufficient space available for people to stand around. So we have the fixed seating and the removable seating is all included within the floor space. If I were to put more fixed seating in there, in the eyes of the fire authority, it could reduce the numbers available because it's based on a calculation of so many people per square metre, and based on the plans that we put together with this layout with the removable seating and the fixed seating, it allows these numbers.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing is, have you carried out this work for the comfort of the people that go there at the moment? Has this work's been carried out?
Some of it has been done, not all of it. Some of it has been done. It's a work in progress, sir.
Right. And the other thing is, do you know the outside seating? If I'm not mistaken, will that be removed at a certain time?
It's 11 o'clock.
Oh, from the
pavement.
From the pavement. Whatever the conditions are on our pavement licence, we would have to comply with those.
I think usually, sir, I think you're right that when the council grants, because it's for the council to grant what do they call it, a pavement cafe licence, or I think those are the words. Yeah. I think usually they impose a condition saying that it finishes at 2300 hours or perhaps earlier than that. Whatever is the council requirement is what will be done.
Yeah. And the other one then is, will you be, I don't know, the word is piping music out onto the pavement?
No. None at all, sir, no.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for the moment.
Thank you.
I've got a few questions. I can see how many seats you've got, But how many people do you anticipate standing up drinking as opposed to sitting down at a table and enjoying a drink?
Do we know? Well, you know, we do have, as I mentioned, we do have the capacity to entertain on each level. You know, the numbers that the fire strategy has outlined, and also the fire service has agreed with. We do have the capacity to deal with that, and people in comfort. You know, so during the prior to COVID-19, when we actually started work on this project, you know, we obviously wanted to fill the venue to obviously have as many customers in as we possibly can. But I can't tell you how many people are going to come in. You know, just to have a certain capacity doesn't mean I'm going to fill it to that capacity. I can only fill it with the number of customers that actually are interested in walking through our front doors. But you know, the venue is set out in such a way that it can cope with the numbers. So if there was, argument's sake, a capacity of 320 on the ground floor and I had seating for 150, then I could, you know, accommodate 170 people standing. But at this moment in time, I can't because of COVID-19 and the requirements of social distancing. But should that disappear, then I would have the ability to be able to have more people, you know.
Okay. Mrs. Thomas would like to say something. Yes, Thomas.
Yes, thank you. I think what needs to be clarified is with regard to the seating that is shown. I heard you loud and clearly where you were saying that this is not going to be a high volume vertical drinking establishment. It's going to be a horizontal one because the majority of people are sitting.
No, Mum, I did not say that. I did not say that. What I said was the number of people who previously used the premises who were standing will be reduced because there will be an increase in the number of people who will be sitting. I am not suggesting that this is becoming like a restaurant and everyone is...
No, I get that, but it has gone from a standing to a seating. That's what I meant by vertical to horizontal. Well,
Mum, again, with respect, I don't think that's quite right. Wine Street, of its nature, a lot of people are going to stand. That's of its nature. That ain't going to change. All that I'm saying is a lot more will be seated than were previously. I'm not able to tell the committee, and it would make my life a lot easier if I could, but I'm not able to tell the committee, well, of the number of people we come in, the majority will be standing, the majority will be sitting. I don't know that. All that I do know is that we are significantly increasing the number of seats that are available. We would expect those to be used. And especially these days, of course, where you can't just go stand at the bar. You know, for me, for instance, if I use a bar, you know, one of the attractions for me is I like to go and stand at the bar. Well, I'm not allowed to do that anymore. It's just not allowed. So, you know, I guess I have to go and park myself somewhere. But it would be wrong, Mrs. Thomas, if I've given the impression, and I want to withdraw it if I have. If I've given the impression that we are changing to that this will no longer be people standing drinking, that will no longer happen, that's wrong, and I did not intend to give that impression. It will still be, there'll be a significant number of people who like to stand in a bar.
Yes, it was just the seating. You've got fixed seating, and you've got this loose seating, as you've called it. And the concerns of the committee will be that overnight all the loose seating could be removed, which will greatly increase the capacity to standing.
Yeah. Well, I could certainly assure the committee, 100%. I can assure the committee that's not our intention. But of course, what we have to do when we make these applications is we have to tell you, and this is in the regulations, we have to tell you, well, which of the seating will be fixed and which of it will not be fixed. And I've tried to set that out. But by having the seating not fixed, it's not because we intend to whip that away come 11 o'clock or any other time. The intention is to have that seating in place, but it won't be bolted to the floor.
No, it might assist then, Mr. Parry, if I'm looking at the second floor licensing plan, which you took us to show us the seating.
Yeah.
It's not clear from the seating, unless my eyesight has deteriorated to such a stage I can't see it. But it's not clear what is fixed and what is loose, for example, on the second floor.
Well, I could show you
this. If you could direct the committee to that.
I can indeed, yes, I think I can, and my client will follow me and correct me if I'm wrong. First of all, if we start, I'm going to start from the left-hand side.
That's the 32 covers, yeah?
Yeah, that's the back of the premises. Bear in mind, the front of the premises, Wine Street on the right-hand side. So the back of the premises, first of all, the seating there, well, what you can see is that it's a bench. Well, it's fixed. And are these fixed?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other seating on the 32 covers, all of that is fixed.
Okay.
Right, now, these tables in front, they can move.
Yes.
So if you look again at the bench seating at the far left-hand side, you have that. Now that's fixed, but can you see that we've got some chairs and tables and chairs? Now they will be movable. The ones immediately in front of the bench seating, they won't be screwed to the ground. That helps. But then the seating immediately to the right of that, that's fixed seating. And then so I'm now going to walk past the void, and I explained that's that void, which will be covered by an awning that you'll be looking down onto. And then you've got the seating then immediately beyond it, that's a bench, that's fixed. Fixed seating. Go to the other side of the room on the right-hand side, that's fixed. There's a stairwell then, and then below the stairwell, that's fixed. Go back to the left-hand side, that's fixed. The sand pit, as it's called, it's not a sand, sorry, can I explain the sand pit? I'm grateful that...
Yes, please do.
I'm grateful that I'm not the only one who has reached an age where I went, sand pit? What's going on here? It's not a sand pit with in my mind a sand pit. Like kids many years ago might have made sandcastles. It's not that kind of sand pit. The point is that it's the theme of the place is the bamboo beach bar. So we've got some sand there so that it looks like a beach. So it's not a rolling around sand pit where the dog does its mess because that's what dog or the cat. It's not that kind of sand pit. And in the sand pit, we've got fixed bench seating all around it. But I say again, it's not a. I hope I make the point. It's not that kind of sand pit. It's an aesthetically a sand pit. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. Do you want to take us to the first floor and the ground floor as well?
Okay. The ground floor I'm very good at, so let me do the ground floor first. So the ground floor, I'll start from the right-hand side. So first of all, we've got the seating which is outside, and we know that will all be seated. That's not fixed, of course, because that's pavement cafe license. That comes in at the end of the night, or whatever time the pavement cafe license tells us to take them in. And then so you come in through these centre doors. On the right-hand side, then you've got all of this new fixed seating in these booths, and that's screened as well. Then we've got more fixed seating there with stools. Then we've got some more fixed seating then with we've got a bench at the back, and then the fixed. I presume these are fixed. It's all fixed. Are these high tables or low? No. These are not the high bar table. These are lower tables. All that's fixed. Then we've got 3 more booths. All that's fixed. Then we come down to the bar, and that new exit that I pointed out. But then stairs, beyond the stairs, more fixed seating there. That wasn't there before. So that's the ground floor. And then the first floor. Oh, sorry, I missed out some on the ground floor. I do apologise. On the ground floor, you know, when you come in, you come through the double doors on the ground floor, and I took you to the fixed seating was on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, are these things that are dangling?
Yeah. There's actually going to be two tables, fixed tables. And then
so on the left-hand side, what we have there is we've got 2 fixed tables, and then this seating here is, it's hanging from the ceiling. Yeah. Please take these words in the spirit that I intend them. They're hanging from the ceiling. So it's suspended seating, given this bar, beach bar theme. So that's the end of the ground floor, and then I'm back now onto the first floor. I'm going to start from the back again, if I may, back of the premises, because the front of the premises are on the first floor. We've got the toilet provision, so I'm going to the back of the premises. We've got a fixed seating there running down the back of the premises, down the bench seating, and then just above it as well. More fixed seating immediately above that, which is to the left-hand side of the servery, and then this seating, which is in the centre. Fixed.
If you see on the plan, what these lines are around it is like a roped off area. So it's going to be a dedicated seating area, but it's not fixed.
So it's fixed.
It's a dedicated seating area, but they're not.
You can move them within that. Okay. So where we have the seating in the centre of the drawing on the first floor, that is a designated seating area, but those tables and chairs are not screwed to the floor. But it is a designated seating area. So it'll always be a seating, but they're not screwed to the floor. And then we have.
No, they can move around.
And then in the central area, where it says dance floor twice, don't know why it would say that twice, they are not fixed. But of course, what we know at the moment is you can't use the dance floor because of COVID. So there's tables and chairs on there because they won't be in use because a different set of regulations say we can't use it. So the seating there, we've got more fixed seating then. Bottom of the dance floor, can you see that on the right hand side next to the bar? Fixed bench, and then a table, and there are seats opposite it. And that's the extent of the fixed seating on that floor.
Thank you, Mr. Parry. Thanks for clarifying.
Thank you, Mrs. Thomas.
Okay, I've got a few more questions. I'm a bit concerned about the way you're going to be able to establish how many people go into each floor, because we know the figure you're asking for, but the figures as they go from floor to floor, how will you regulate that?
Right. I think, may I say with respect, I think it's a very good question. And what they're doing already, bearing in mind that they have, when I say already, they haven't been doing it for a long time because they've been closed since March, of course, but what they were doing before the closure is they have clicker counters that you'll be very familiar with. So they have door supervisors clicking to monitor the numbers coming in and out, and they do it in that way. Now, there is some more technology on the way, but I can't ask you to impose this as a condition yet, because it's a matter that my clients are working on now. There's more technology on the way, and which they're being quoted for, but we don't know whether it'll be installed yet, where using, presumably, it's face recognition technology and that kind of thing, but I don't know, where it will tell you exactly how many people are on each floor at any one time. And that, if we can have that, but we don't know we'll have it yet, but it's planned, but we don't know that it'll be delivered. If we can have that, it would be wonderful, because that's going to free up the number of door supervisors sitting there counting with clickers. But it's all clicker based, and I know that you're familiar with those. I think they got 2 clickers, one in, one out, and you subtract from the other and you see the numbers. So they are controlled. The numbers to each floor will be controlled now.
So who will be controlling them?
The SIA door people and the management generally.
Right, I can understand the SIA as he comes through the door, you'd be clicking them in, but when they go to some people are going to shoot off to the ground floor, other people are going to want to go upstairs to either of the other floors, and that's where I've got the concern.
They're clicking at each floor, aren't they? They're clicking at each floor, Mum. So
So you're going to have somebody on each floor, or you only need, if there's not enough people. You only need 2 SIAs in.
Mum, sorry, can you answer that question?
Yeah, currently, we'll have like the capacity for the first 4, for example. So until we reach a certain capacity, we would have to count everybody in. But at the moment, we utilise security operatives to count customers in and out of each level. So that's how we currently have to manage it, and it doesn't change with the new layout. We still have to manage it that way. The one thing I am looking at the moment, as Mr. Parry pointed out, is that we are speaking to a number of companies where they're using this head counting software that they use in supermarkets and the like, and we're just trying to make that fit within our budget because we think that could be something that could help us to manage it better. But we still would have to rely on security staff to still be able to control the entry and exit points so that areas don't become over capacity.
Okay, thank you. The other question I've got is about the violence, because there were 5 instances of violence there in 2018 and 10 in 2019. Can you explain to us what measures you've put in place to try and alleviate this happening now with the new setup, please?
Well, first of all, as far as the incidents of violence in the premises are concerned, and I haven't brought this evidence before the committee because I didn't think that this was if I can put it this way, a crime and disorder application. Given that the police have said to you, well, like for like, we'd have no objection to this application. So they're not saying that the crime and disorder in these premises is such that you shouldn't grant this application. But if I can deal with it in this way, what we know about the figures is that whenever there is an incident which involves crime and disorder, and someone says, oh, I've come from Bamboo, I've been drinking in Bamboo, well, then that incident is logged to our premises.
Okay.
So as far as the incidents on the premises are concerned, what my client tells me, are we one short all of a sudden? Because the police officer's screen facing up fills up half the screen. And have we missed something? Has someone gone off the screen? No, I understand. Right. It was Mrs. Walker who disappeared for a moment, and I couldn't understand it. As far as crime and disorder on the premises is concerned, what my client tells me is that it's not a disorderly premises. They haven't noticed a significant, although they've been shut for 6 months, but they haven't noticed that it's like a bad premises when they compare it with their other premises. The door supervisors that they have, are they directly employed or are they agency supplied?
It's an agency.
They're agency supplied, but they've been with them for a long time. They know them. They're comfortable with them, and they think it works, Mark.
Okay. I think this is going to be my last question. Smoking areas. Where have you got a designated smoking area?
Do you answer that, Mr. John Griffiths? What's the smoking position?
In terms of designated smoking, then part of the reason to have the external areas so customers can smoke outside, an area that complies with the required setup. Also, customers can smoke in the external areas on the terraces on the first and second floor.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. Are there any more questions, please? Can we open this up now for any questions to go across? If the police have any questions, or Mr. Parry, or
I have none, ma'am. But thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hancock, do you have any questions? Anything you'd like to bring up?
No, I can probably clarify a few issues, etc., through the summing up process, if that makes the process easier, ma'am.
Thank you. That's fine. Councillor Downing?
Yeah, can I first of all ask Mr. Hancock, is it correct what Mr. Parry said about the violence? That if you have somebody outside and they say they've been to Bamboo, then you put that against Bamboo?
No, if I can clarify that one, I was going to do part of the summing up, but perhaps it's easier to address that issue now. every week or every day rather, we look at our incidents across the division, and we look as if there's anything attributable to the licensed premises. The figures I've outlined in the representation are figures directly attributable to Bamboo. Each one of those figures relate to a crime report, so there is a victim of crime. Now, I completely accept some of those haven't been charged to court, but the submission I would make is that every one of those victims of crime has to be investigated. And from looking through the crime reports, which I've got in front of me here, they are extensive inquiries that need to be done. So not only are we policing the nighttime economy, we are having to deal with the follow-up inquiries after. So if, for example, 2019, there's 10 violence offences. They are 10 victims of crime, 10 victims that we have to take statements from and go through a lengthy process to ensure all our investigations have been conducted as efficiently as possible. So they are directly attributed to Bamboo. I would also submit that whilst I accept Bamboo isn't what you would call a traditional problem venue, it is a late night venue. It does experience issues, and I know the operators well. They are right. They are very experienced, but they are not immune from incidents happening from inside their premises.
Okay, thank you.
I've got another question, Chair.
Yes, okay.
Well, this is to the officer. This is Mr. Parry did make reference to the walkabout being closed and Revolution being closed. Does that mean now they haven't got a licence, or have they still got a licence so they could, in effect, open tomorrow?
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, the premises formerly known as Revolution is due to be heard by committee in October for a new premises licence application. In relation to Walkabout, that premises still has a licence for the capacity that it would have had prior to closing. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I ask a question of
yes, of course.
Mrs. Walker rising out of that? So do I understand the position correctly, that as far as Revolution is concerned, it no longer has a licence?
No, there is an application in. The licence for Revolution did lapse.
Yes.
There is a licence application in. It was due to be heard last month, but adjourned in the public interest, and is due to be heard in October.
So right now there is no licence?
There is no licence currently.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else like to bring any questions? No?
Can I just follow on from that particular thing then? If they haven't got a licence, when they come to the licensing authority again, that will be a new licence.
Yes, Councillor, in relation to Revolution, we are waiting to hear a new premises licence application.
Right, thank you.
Okay, are there any more questions, please? Across the board? No? Okay. So we go now to the South Wales Police to sum up, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Probably summing up and also trying to respond to Mr. Parry's application. So I do my best. I'm not a particularly eloquent speaker, as you can imagine. I'm a police officer, so that's what I tend to do, but I'll do my best. Firstly, the application was submitted. I would submit that was the opportunity for the applicant to fully explain how this premises is going to operate and how is going to do it safely. When I first considered the application, it was considered, is it a like-for-like application? The operating hours were the same. There wasn't any change in the operating schedule, and there was nothing really changed. So considering the policy, was there any impact on the cumulative impact? If the hours stayed the same, the answer was no. However, it is become blatantly clear that there is the potential for 150 extra people to be in that premises. Now, with the greatest respect to Mr. Parry and the responses he's given you, no, we don't know how many people are going to go in there, but we have to work on the basis that the fire authority has given a total capacity of 770 people. Now, whether you take into account the fixed seating movable seating, 770 people could legally, under the fire legislation, be allowed into that premises. That is an extra 150 people. Mr. Parry mentioned a numbers game and said it isn't a numbers game, but with the greatest respect, that's exactly what this is about. That is the second reason why this premises will lead to further cumulative impact. The 150 hasn't, I believe, been adequately explained. Mr. Parry very carefully went through the whole plans from beginning to end. He mentioned from the external area at the front to the downstairs area. He very detailed explanation of staircases up to the first floor, the second floor. All of those need actual control and management. The issue with the door staff that we've raised, I accept I did receive the email from Mr. Barry, but very difficult to reply to that on the grounds that this application was objected to on the grounds that there were extra persons going in there, not in relation to the conditions. How is this venue going to be controlled over 3 floors, 2 external areas, 2 staircases? Mr. Parry himself just said now that it's going to be controlled with clickers and staff. Where are these numbers going to come from on the grounds that the latest submission is that there will be only 2 door staff operating from 10 o'clock on a Wednesday, Friday and Saturday? We've mentioned COVID. COVID does require extra staffing and extra resourcing. That hasn't been explained where this is going to come from. The flow of people, is it going to be done safely? I refer to the previous premises, if you like, where it was mentioned pinch points, queuing, not safe on stairs, and the flow of people. The numbers who were existing in the existing premises, the premises couldn't cope with. People had to go to use the toilet outside in a lane. The toilets were not adequate. Yet we've now increased the toilets downstairs by 2 females, and obviously the gents is there as well. So I accept on the current capacity, on the old capacity, if you like, the premises would operate in a more safer way. However, we are now adding 150 people to that. So how will these toilets actually cope with this increase? To say that there is no guarantee 150 people, those 150 people are going to come into the premises, with the greatest respect, Mr. Parry's outlined it's cost over £200,000 worth of investment. The operators are going to want to see a return on that investment, and with respect, it is about getting numbers through the door. It is a late night venue. It is a wet late night venue. 2019, they submitted 8 temporary event notices, trade until 6 a.m. This year, they've had 2 temporary event notices, trade until 6 a.m. It is targeting the late night market, and control of intoxicating people, certainly in the current COVID issue, is the major problem. So I have issues over the capacity in terms of the cumulative impact. If we take into terms walkabout, I believe that argument's an absolute nonsense. That could reopen next week if it wished. So that capacity remains in place. Revolution is seeking a new premises application because it has lapsed. If they are to have their new application, do we reduce their capacity by 150 because Bamboo has got their share? And ultimately, that's where we come from. This is a 23% increase. If you took that across Wine Street and the surrounding areas and other premises using the same argument as Mr. Parry has used today, decided to increase their premises capacity by 23%, that would be an extra 6,500 people into that locality, which is clearly an increase in terms of cumulative impact. The council very kindly discussed the incidents. Whilst this isn't an application on number of incidents alone and their seriousness, it does suffer from incidents. It is not immune from that. Each one of those incidents requires lengthy investigation. From a policing point of view, we are investing a lot of time and money in terms of resources to police in the evening and nighttime economy to keep people safe. And yet we're following up for weeks, sometimes months on end, dealing with incidents from licensed premises. So it does have an impact in relation to our operation going forward. An extra 6,500 people in the locality, potentially, if you work on the same basis Mr. Parry has advocated today, would cause us serious issues. The comparison between Brewdog and Bamboo, again, I fail to see the connection. It's a different style premises. This is over 3 floors that's traditionally had issues with managing numbers of people on each floor. The fire authority has said have set limits for each floor, and they have to be adhered to. The venue itself is not offering anything different. It's not targeting underrepresented groups. It is targeting the traditional drinkers on a late night economy. It is not providing anything different to anybody else. And I would submit that the increase in numbers is a commercial decision. Whilst I agree safety is improved in terms of toilets downstairs, not by adding another 150 people on top. I don't get how that is actually the improved safety overall. I would also suggest that opening a new premises with £200,000 worth of investment, that will be promoted, that will be on social media, that will be in the media. And in one sense, yes, I would expect people to be attracted to Wine Street because people will see, let's go to Bamboo, they're having an opening night. It will be done. To say that it won't be promoted and attracting people from outside of the Wine Street clientele, I believe to be false. To what extent, it probably can't be managed and assessed, but I believe that will have an impact. And I think that's probably it for me, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hancock. Now to sum up, we go to Mr. Parry.
Thank you, Madam. By way of closing submissions, what I don't intend to do is to repeat my application because I've already made it, and I've made it now through this Teams meeting. I think that's what we're on. And I've also made it in that letter of the 25th of August. I rely heavily on everything that I said in that letter of the 25th of August. I'm very grateful to you for taking the time to read that today, because it means that I won't have to repeat it all and making the closing submissions to you. But I rely on everything in this letter by way of closing submissions to you. And I remind you respectfully that notwithstanding the special policy, you retain a discretion. You deal with this application on its merits and you retain a discretion. What my clients have set out to do is to provide a safer, better served and more comfortable premises than those which exist and are licensed at the moment. I say again that in my submission this is not a crime and disorder application, if I can put it in that way, where the hot issue is crime and disorder. Of course, crime and disorder is one of the matters that is dealt with and considered by virtue of your special policy. I don't know where 6,500 extra people come from, with all respect to the licensing officer. 6,500 extra people coming there. I don't know what part of this application the licensing officer seeks to comment upon, with all due respect to him. We don't know if any additional people will come to the premises. What we do know right now is that there'll be less than these capacity coming to the premises. We know that. We know that because in the same way as my clients are bound by and affected by fire safety regulations, they're bound by and affected by the COVID safe regulations. And for the foreseeable future, that remains the case. So for the foreseeable future, there's no capacity issues here at all. None whatsoever. Unless, of course, there's someone here who can tell me when the vaccine's coming, which they could. And you deal with this application as things exist today, warts and all, as things exist today. One of the things that exists today is this. We've heard Revolution hasn't got a licence. they're going to have to go through something like this, I guess, because at the moment they don't have a license. So if we're playing the numbers game, well, let's take that out of it for starters. Let's take 800 people out of it. I invite you to conclude that the licensing games here, in terms of fire safety, toilet provision, comfort, quality of services, they're matters that you properly take into account, and that taking those matters into account, you conclude that this should be an exception to the special policy and you should grant this application. If you play the numbers game, then I invite you to consider COVID and revolution. And I also invite you to consider this. Well, will there be any more people coming to these premises? Really? Do we know that? We don't know that. And in fact, what we can predict as things stand right now is that there will not be for the foreseeable future. A new license now for the foreseeable future. And now I'm at risk of trying to improve my application by telling you all about it all over again. So I'm going to resist that temptation and stop now, unless there's a particular question that anyone has for me. If not, those are my submissions.
We can't go back to John. I'm sorry, Mr. Hancock, we can't come back to you. I do apologise. I think now is the time that we're going to have to go into recess with Mrs. Thomas. So the decision of the committee will be posted out, assuming it gets it, within the next 5 days. So that's the way it'll come out to you now. Thank you for attending this morning, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you very much, members of the committee and everyone concerned with the application. It's very strange, and I look forward to the time when we can turn up again and do it properly. But thank you all very much indeed.
Thank you.
Yes, please.